You were at the United States Central Command, and you were responsible for anti-terrorism, force protection policies, action plans in forward combat areas.
Yes.
And you also did risk assessments at different United States interests in the Middle East.
Yes.
Now, I was wondering, how does the threat of the Islamic State, or ISIS, as some call them, how does that factor into, I guess, risk assessment for different places across the Middle East?
My assessments were not per se threat-based, except in the general version of threat-based, that if someone's outside the wire and may want to get inside the wire. So it all depended on where I went. I did a threat assessment in the sense of I had an intel guy that would say, this is the threat when I was in Jordan, and this is the people who may want to try to get into the facilities inside of Jordan, inside of Oman, inside of Saudi Arabia, or in the Riyadh area. So I would tell you when I was in Iraq, my unit was up in Iraq, our assessments do understand what the flavor of the threat outside the facility is, and then it's somewhat metered. But essentially what we use is there's a standard of, hey, you have to have a fence this tall, I mean, or you have to, we looked at communications, we looked at IT, we looked at physical security, we looked at guard force, we looked at everything that provides security for the installation, the processes and procedures. So yeah, we were concerned with ISIS in the sense of what capabilities they have, but most of their capabilities in the sense when we looked at facilities back then was rocket attacks, whether it was in Afghanistan for Taliban or insurgents, or in Iraq. And then, so it didn't play a huge role, except we understood there was a threat that offered this type of capability, right?
And that was in 2013 and 2014?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And now, was the name ISIS, I guess, thrown around during that time? Because the general public didn't really start hearing about them until probably midsummer of this last year during their offensive in Iraq.
No, I was at CENTCOM. I mean, we were aware of the Islamic State in Levant back then, whether it's ISIS or ISIL. Back then it was ISIL. And so there was clearly a concern of them coming out of Syria. There's, it was on a lot of people's minds. So I wouldn't call it, I don't think people realized what the movement was going to be able to be capable of as they moved in from Syria into, Mosul and into Tikrit. And then, in the summer, this last summer, I really got a lot of mobility. And then when, of course, when there was challenges to the Iraqi government, our Iraqi forces didn't do as well as maybe we wanted them to do. So they were watched. I think they're a challenge, and we'll see, hopefully, in the near future that the Iraqi forces can drive them out of Tikrit, and we'll see where we stand. I don't know if the Iraqi forces were really as prepared in the sense of, I think they were well trained when we left, but the question is, was the leadership there, or did the leadership kind of get weaned off after we had left? I guess we don't really know.
Now, the operation that's underway in Tikrit right now by Iraqi forces and some of the Iraqi militias, how important is this as a test for the Iraqi government when it comes to their ability to retake Mosul in maybe a early spring or late winter offensive early?
Well, I think next year. I mean, I think it's key for everyone. I mean, I think that's part of our strategy is to train, right, and we want those forces to do well. Clearly, we're hopeful that the training that they're provided by the folks in Baghdad pays off. I mean, we'll all have to wait and see how well this turns out. Hopeful, right?